Dante and the Damned Dozen are stuck in Dagyuan Yuan until Mephistopheles comes back for them. At a pavilion of Dagyuan Yuan, Dante asked Honglu how the taste was, specifically about the tea brewed from tea leaves that Jia Xichun gave them, called Bai Hao Jinzhen, which is a white hair silver needle, a white tea that originates in Fujian province, China. It's the most expensive and most prized of teas, first exported in 1891. As for Fujian province, it's along the coast of China. It's mild, warm, and has much rainfall. Anyway, Honglu thought it was, a nice cup of tea that goes down easily, but didn't think it was as good as Zeren's. Dante wasn't surprised by this. They felt a cool wind at Dagyuan Yuan blowing under that pavilion. They survived the huge incident that was the overthrow attempt. Dante decided to hold some consultation sessions with the others like they usually did, but they didn't know when Mephistopheles was coming back, so they decided to conduct them outdoors, believing that a change of scenery would be nice from time to time. Dante then made it clear that, as much as they loved to be a part of that discussion, their head didn't come with a mouth. Honglu saw that as a sore spot for Dante, remembering that they expressed this feeling before, whenever they were snacking together. They said things like that, referring to what happened in Chapter 6.5, Part 2, Murder on the Warp Express, when they gave up the complimentary food from the warp train to Rodia, believing that they wanted to know what it tasted like then, too. Dante nervously said that it wasn't all that bad. Honglu told them that he'd feel regret and sadness, seeing this as tragic. Dante saw that ever since Honglu severed the cycle that bound the hierarchs of Dagyuan Yuan and sealed the Zhanren in their temple, he'd been making a lot of expressions that they've not seen in him before, while getting the impression that he's been actively trying to express his feelings and thoughts, even for things his past self would simply accept as is, like an old dam breaking, its fresh spring water surging to freedom. Honglu told them that he can't give them a mouth, but they can trust them to give them a very detailed expression of flavors. So he told them to feel free to ask any time. Yes, to ask them any time, rather. Dante thanks them. They saw this as a good thing that this happened, especially because, more so than anything, they could sense that Honglu was generally, indeed gently, enjoying these moments. Seeing these as him experiencing very positive changes, they wrote that down in their consultation notes. Honglu then told them that he wasn't sure that would get through to them, given that they probably didn't even remember the taste of food anyway. Dante then changed what was written on the notes to started on a path to achieving some very positive changes. Sinclair then rushed in and called out to Dante. Dante asked what was going on. Sinclair understood that they were in the middle of a consultation, but this was a huge, big as a house, truck by the entrance. The point is that they needed to see this. At the front gates, Heathcliff called over Clockhead, and Dante asked if that was... And Dante saw that the truck was indeed massive. It certainly did live up to all the fuss that was about it, but Gregor thought it was something. Dante saw that the others weren't that concerned about it. Dante nervously asked if everything was okay there, hoping that it wasn't another attack of Daguan Yuan. Heathcliff said no, it wasn't. Although that was what it was suspected to be at first, but it wasn't a problem now. Ishmael annoyingly pointed out that it was because none of them knew how to observe. It was about the details, pointing out that it had the company logo on it, and Dante asked where. Ishmael told them that it was right there in the corner over there. Ishmael pointing at something on the vehicle, irritation clearly on her voice. Dante stared really hard at whatever she was pointing at. They managed to find Limbus Company's logo painted on the vehicle. It was the size of a palm. Ishmael told them that they were this close to chopping that truck into 1,000,000 pieces when she pointed that out. Gregor was impressed that she managed to make out what that was. It didn't look like anything other than a smudge to him. Believing eyesight is really the first thing that goes with age. Rodya saw that as their fault for making it so small and inconspicuous. Then they heard Sod tell them that it's not a public-facing vehicle. Then they noticed her walking up to them. She told them that it's a research vehicle used by the LCE department. They've used it before. Marcel could tell from the material and the colour of the truck's cover panel it's the same transportation device used for the regular checkup. Sod confirmed this to be the case. Ever since they used it to safely arrive at the LCE, they've been using it to move the LCC base around. LCC being the clearance department. They assist with retrieving the golden bars, split into the before and after team. The before team scouts and prepares the, situation prior to the actual retrieval of the golden bars, which the bus department do, and the after team which cleans up after Dante and a damned dozen. Yes, to the extent that they gave Dante HP ampules in Chapter 3 to regenerate their injuries, due to being partially melted by chroma. Heathcliff asked if they were test subjects? Yeah, you were canaries in cages used to test if it was safe to use for the others. Sard interrupted him and told them that when they opened the truck to open a portal to transport a different team, and Heathcliff was at her for interrupting him. She then went on to say that she did so and walked to the truck and swung open its doors, and Dante saw the same mess of machines that they saw back then, and Dante made it clear to the others that the light was familiar to them. The green light. Faust understood what it was, asking Sard if there have been any additional modifications to the vehicle since they last saw it. Sard wasn't certain of the details, but the chief researcher of the LCE, Faust told her that he was Hohenheim. Sard confirmed this, asking if they were acquainted. Faust told her that it wasn't very well, but she made an effort to remember his minor yet numerous mistakes. And Faust sounded oddly happy. Sard then got back to the point. According to the research report he gave them, the vehicle had been modified to allow for universal use across other departments of Limbus Company. Then she spoke of Mephistopheles, specifically the back door as being the reference to equip that vehicle with various functions, and Faust saw this as how it explained why it's happening there, and that green light is not the sign that an intergalactic peacekeeping force is about to appear. Wulpurgis night was upon them. Don Quixote asked how this was possible as they weren't on the bus. Faust told her that it's not a theoretical impossibility. Major parts of that technology forming its engine have been shared with Hohenheim. It's within the realm of possibility that the engine's influence may be transferred there as well. However, the means by which it has affected that vehicle has to be studied. Yi Sang believed that it seems to comprehend their absence and their separation from the bus, suspecting that it might be reacting to the presence of the Golden Bar. Faust saw that Mephistopheles was currently boarded by Virgilius, Charon, and many of the before team. Therefore, if they travel far, this might be true. Either that or there exists a flow that ensures their encounter with the Wulpurgis Knights regardless of the environment surrounding them. Perhaps, she thought to herself, staring pensively into the distance, before turning towards them again with mild resignation. She told Dante to lead the way inside. If it had found them, then it must rightfully be observed. They found themselves in a bright hallway, and Hong Lu knew that it was Lobotomy Corporation HQ again. Dante asked what he meant by that he knew it. Hong Lu then explained that Heathcliff opened up a betting pool about where their next Wulpurgis Night location would be. Dante wanted to know what he meant. Then Heathcliff told those that bet against Lobotomy Corporation not being the next location, he told those gits to pay up. Sinclair objected, saying that Roger told him that it was just about time the patterns changed. Roger was among those that also bet against that, believing that it was just the right time to bet against the odds. Well, as Qui-Gon Jinn would put it, whenever you gamble, eventually you'll lose. Dante understood that the bet was to do with whether they'd be in Lobotomy Corporation HQ or the library. Dante noticed that it was different from the other hallways they saw in previous visits. Don Quixote excitedly asked if they sensed this. It was familiar yet unfamiliar. Yi Sang saw it as almost a stage for a play. Ishmael saw that it had gotten wider, a long and narrow hallway, but slightly wider. Faust was uncertain how many days had passed in the Lobotomy Corporation HQ. Don Quixote wanted to know what she meant. Faust stopped herself. It was something to be discussed later, when she was more sure about this, stating the current circumstances of that place. They're in the central command floor, the very center of the middle layer. So it's at least at least day 21, as that's the first day that it could possibly be unlocked, which needed all of the upper layer to be unlocked for this to be possible. Ishmael saw that the ones that they visited so far must have been in the upper layer, and Faust saw this as correct, adding that the departments of Lobotomy Corporation HQ were progressively unlocked with the passage of time. Wulpurgis knew from reports that when it crumbled and fired, that sky would light. Faust saw that with every visit they find themselves at a farther point in time there. As soon as the current day can be pinpointed, Wulpurgis suspected that she suspected that they might even be able to experience that day, as in the day that the seed of light that led to the White Nights and Dark Days was released. So they might hear from or meet Aeon, the one that finished what Carmen started. Before Faust could speak any farther about this, the red lights and alarm were sounded. Gregor saw that it was quick, asking if they're there to take care of an ordeal, or something like that. Ishmael was complaining. Yeah, she certainly wasn't complaining, as they were doing nothing while Jia Xichun left for a grand conference to decide the future of Dangyuan Yuan. Which explains why they're not doing the training, which will likely be during Chapter 8.5. Wulpurgis saw that there was so little time. She had to prepare a more intense training regimen to make up for lost time. Well, she's certainly dedicated. And Ryushi said that, whichever it is, laughing slightly, seeing that it'll be FUN. Full under nightmare? I'm not sure about that one. Then an angry child's voice asked what they were talking about. Roger then knew that this was a Separa. She asked if they expected some other voice speaking through the Central Command's PA system other than Teperef's. Then a calm male child's voice told her that they're confused and asked her to please explain the situation to them. Roger was confused that there was two of them. The male child confirmed that he was also Teperef. Faust explained that Central Command, unlike the other departments, was significantly larger in size. Well, significant enough, anyway. It was large enough to have to be managed in two areas, A and B, requiring two separate Separot to manage it. The female Teperef confirmed this. It was a loss even with both of them. It's why it's up to them to be more thorough. Heathcliff told them to bring out the ordeal, asking what they're destroying this time. The female Teperef told him that what are they talking about? Telling them that there's an abnormality containment breach. They're well and truly because everyone else is off trying to suppress this mess on the other side. Then the alarm that was blaring suddenly went off. The male Teperef spoke of this as the second warning. The female Teperef complained about the slackers, or the damned dozen as I call them, telling them to get to the central room right now to deal with the blue entity. They did so, and they found themselves in front of the Night of Despair, one of the magical girl set of abnormalities. How this one works is that the first agent to perform a good work for that day will receive a blessing, which halves red, white, and black damage, but doubles pale. If and when that agent died, then a different employee could gain it. But if the one with the blessing panics, due to SP running out, this is how the Night of Despair breaches and attacks with its rapiers, flying in any direction that there are agents. They deal white damage, which attacks SP primarily. It's a 1 level abnormality. This was what Limbus Company needs to suppress. She has no strengths or weaknesses, but she pierces her enemies. Her attacks can inflict sinking, which can boost her coin power if enough is on a target. She can inflict cold black tears equal to the remaining coins if she wins a clash. Some attacks can boost base power if the target has 20 SP or more, and her unbreakable attack increases coin power based on if cold black tears are there or not, although it will deal 80% less damage, and the target won't be staggered by it if the clash is lost. A single hit attack can inflict fragile if enough cold black tears on the target, and the attack hits. Cold black tears being a status ailment that can reduce clash power, and also reduce SP based on the amount of it there is, but it can't reduce SP below -40. She also has an unbreakable multi-target attack that increases coin power for enough cold black tears on the main targets. It prioritizes the one with the most of these, damaging fixed damage equal to the number of cold black tears times 6% of the current target's maximum HP, before removing them, but only if the clash is won. She has a counter defense. When the enemy uses a special attack, and when she doesn't have the crumpled pride status, she'll attack all targets and do the previous attack attributes at the end of the multi-hit combo. She takes half damage from status ailments, and if she hits with a cracked unbreakable coin, it won't activate the sinking effect. Now, the Damned doesn't clash with this abnormality. It was certainly tough, but they would not crumble. They had dealt with worse than this. As for her origin, at least according to her, she was once a knight who protected a kingdom and its people. A conflict occurred, evil became stronger, she disappeared when upholding the peace proved impossible. She became obsessed to protect alongside her sisters in arms. She fought for peace, but, while one lets greed took over, another fought for justice but became the villain, after all evil was beaten. She was consumed with the despair from knowing this. She tried to redeem herself by being a protector. She wasn't fully corrupted, but she was forgotten by those she once protected. Now, the first to be selected in the team that fights here will have the Central Command Team Captain status, which will grant them one more attack, has one more of the strongest type of attack in the attack pool, and one less of the weakest attacks. More status ailments will be inflicted, and attacks with a higher attack weight will deal more damage, and 2 EGO resources will be gained upon defeating an enemy, and this will be the sin affinity of the attack that did so, while 1 EGO resource is gained for the rest. The welfare team model employee status is gained for the second one selected for the team. This inflicts more status ailment, and if this is Rodia, with the the sword sharpened by tears EGO identity, and her identity story actually reflects this, she has 1 pierce damage up, meaning she has an advantage as she's chosen for this. Gregor complained that this one was kind of elaborate. Sinclair was intimidated by her hard-to-parry swords. They had a long reach. It was so thin that he could hardly see where it was. Then she fired another volley of thrusting swords in their general direction. Thankfully, and surprisingly, pink rays of light coalesced before Sinclair before someone rushed onto the scene and parried away the flying swords. This didn't surprise Tipperev. She leapt right into the action the moment that the second warning went off. Sinclair wasn't sure what to make of what he was seeing. This rather colourful newcomer apologized for being late, telling them, "Here comes Magical Girl!" Yeah, anime has truly come to life. One that seeks to bring doom. The other is an ally. She appears and announces to all that they're fighting that in the name of love and justice. Here comes Magical Girl. This is when they deal with a similar method of fighting her as the library did at a later point in that world's timeline, as the swords appear to back the abnormality up, with Magical Girl coming to assist them with her powers. She grants a power-up to all upon entering the battle. She inflicts rupture with her attack, and gains up to 2 base power, based on the sum of rupture and sinking on the Night of Despair. She can even inflict bind if enough of either is on that abnormality. Her ranged attack is similar to how she did so in Lobotomy Corporation. She damages enemies, but heals allies that she hits with her projectiles. Her defense is a block that grants her a shield that causes her to chant. The Knight of Despair was granted helpless tears to a random sword. Or rather, granting these helpless tears, as this would be the sword that would need to be defeated quickly. Each sword that was defeated, that has this, would stab itself right into the Knight of Despair. She'll be staggered for the... well... when she's staggered, rather, for the first time, she'll recover from it the next turn and gain protection and a 500 HP shield, and then summoning a sword. She'll gain crumbled pride each time a sword pierces her, which will weaken her protection and shield. And when this is at 3, protection and shield will no longer be there, and she'll be staggered and gain the Weathered Knight status, which will mean 100% more damage will be taken. If one of the damned dozen has 5 or more cold black tears, next turn after she's staggered, an area of effect attack will occur. If all of them have this, then the Blessing of Despair will take them away and she'll gain a clash and damage up buff. And she'll be able to inflict 1 more cold black tears with her attacks. The magical girl, after a time, would charge up her finishing move. Yes, charging up her finishing move, Arcana Slave! Needing the others to distract the Knight of Despair while she does this. Then we'll have her line as she chanted her finisher. Heed me, thou that art more azure than justice and more crimson than love. In the name of those buried in destiny, I shall make this oath to the light. Mark the hateful beings who stand before us. Let your strength merge with mine so that we may deliver the power of love to all. Arcana Slave! Doing a kawaii pose before unleashing a colourful beam against her senpai. If the knight is hit by Arcana Slave when she has Weathered Knight status, she won't lose HP below 5% and she'll commit Harakiri, suppressing this abnormality. In hard mode, this also happens if Arcana Slave hits and she is at less than 600 HP. However, if this fails to suppress her, the magical girl will retreat and apply What Use Am I status on those fighting the Knight of Despair, which weakens offense and defense to all. Her love/justice count can boost rupture infliction. Yes, the rupture that she inflicts on the Knight of Despair. And Tippereth, upon the completion of the suppression, will then announce that things have finally got back to normal there, telling everyone that they did good work, who hope that everything will be over for them one day too. Then they'll be waiting for the respite to come, singing the song of their hometown. Yeah, their hometown is in the outskirts, and I'll get to that part towards the end. The magical girl was seemingly out of breath after that battle. She felt so bad. But the Knight of Despair, her senpai, won't be a threat to them now. Then Don Quixote hesitated briefly before asking, and this caught the magical girl's attention. Don Quixote asked if she was a magical maiden. The magical girl confirmed this. She's there fighting to vanquish those evil arcana. This excited Don Quixote, who acted like the otaku that she usually sounded like. As if anime had truly come to life, finding out that magic and legendary codices do exist, seeing her costume as fashionable, were to gather magical powers. Then Faust told her to calm herself, and then dragged her away. The magical girl asked where were they headed. Dante observed that Faust somehow managed to snatch Don Quixote, who was wildly flapping her arms, and drag her away from that magical girl and back to them. Don Quixote was upset by this, asking why she dragged her from that consultation of great significance. She had mountains of questions to ask her. Faust told her that she's no magical girl, saying this in a low voice. Don Quixote asked why she was saying this in such a low voice. Then Faust revealed that this was O-01-04, risk level 1, the abnormality known as the Queen of Hatred. Well, for recording purposes, that's what she's called. Don Quixote struggled to believe that she was an abnormality. She spoke like a human. She was labelled like that. One that exudes justice is the Queen of Hatred. Faust then reminded her that abnormalities shouldn't be judged from external appearances. Abnormalities can have a sense of self, thinking and feeling, suspecting that they might be seen as human, at least by the head standards. But the Queen of Hatred is an abnormality. The stern tone of her voice made her, it made them all slowly turn to look at the blue-haired abnormality. She was just standing there, humming a light tune, swinging her staff around. Dante then noticed that the lights around them had changed back and the alarm stopped blaring. The Queen of Hatred saw that she managed to protect the peace once again. She then puffed away with the same pink swirl that she appeared with, back to her containment units. The female Tipperef saw this as annoying, asking why did that abnormality have to be contained in their department? Yes, good question. Why did it have to be contained in their department? The male Tipperef told her that it couldn't be helped. Not even the manager knows which abnormality would appear at the HQ. The female Tipperef was forced to admit this was true, but it was still annoying to her. The Queen of Hatred, she always showed up during the second warning, barely doing anything to help, leaving like she did something, reminding him that she completely loses it unless they baby her all the time. The male Tipperef then pointed out that the mic was still on. The female Tipperef didn't give a The employees had to know that Then the mic was switched off. Dante understood that an abnormality is still an abnormality at the end of the day. Yisang saw that her management style seems to be a source of stress around there. Don Quixote didn't see anything off there. The Queen of Hatred assisted them in their fight against the Knight of Despair, insulted by the female Tipperef seeing her as a lack of help. Faust then asked them to please review a document. It was made based on management reports for that abnormality from those that worked there, which were quite detailed, based on the quite lengthy period of time on it. Possibly centuries, although she didn't mention this part. Don Quixote read it. Gregor was visibly disturbed. Ishmael understood why the female Tipperef said what they did about having to baby that one. The more they read about it, the worse it got. They likely got to the part of what happened if they didn't baby that one. Dante skimmed through it and they could see that she had a compulsive obsession that she always had to be on the side of justice. And Roger added that she grows more hysterical the longer the peaceful period lasts, asking what her problem is. Well, she's basically like Don Quixote when she first started, except much worse. Heathcliff asked the great scholar of fixers if she had anything to say. Don Quixote saw that this was quite different from what she anticipated. Faust saw it as fortunate that they didn't encounter the mutated form of the Queen of Hatred that day. Yeah. She's talking about the mini kaiju with mouth lasers. That's a handful to deal with. Faust continued by saying that they also possess sanity. Employees assigned to it have a responsibility to keep it at higher levels at all times. I'll go over how both abnormalities operated towards the end. But for now, there's the rest of this to deal with. Wulpurgis didn't think that it was easy to put up with humouring a monster in human skin. Well, there are many psychopaths and sociopaths that some are willing to do that. Not always out of fear. Faust told them, and told her specifically, that it's the extent to the required effort at this point. Wulpurgis didn't like this, but she understood. Masot saw that she was implying that the management of abnormalities is more complicated than just getting sanity to a reasonable level. Faust confirmed this. She also mentioned that, well, at this point, they've yet to extract a larger quantity of abnormalities. Yisang wanted to point out what she meant when she said about extracting. Yeah, the more natural abnormalities, they weren't numerous enough for energy production, so they had to make abnormalities. Likely using the monolith to first distort someone and then turning them into abnormalities. As it was implied in Chapter 5.5, Part 2, during the encounter with bamboo-hatted Kim, who had used the monolith. Basically, if a distortion stays around an active monolith for too long, they can become abnormalities. But they had no time to question her strange choice of words, as they found themselves back in the LCE's vehicle. Faust announced that this was where that scenario ended. She advised Dante that there might be further information that can be gathered from that experience. They can make more visits there, and recommended that they do this. Dante understood. Yisang wanted to continue his line of inquiry, but Faust, she shook her head, as if to say, well, either she wasn't certain or it was too soon to say at this point, and this caught Dante's attention. If she doesn't even know what's going on within the company that she's working for, the stories from Lobotomy Corporation of the library were filled with nothing but confusing mysteries. Well, there is one place to check on that, but it's way too soon for that. It's in the outskirts and involves 2 color fixes. Dante understood that those 2 places, which are the same place in different times, they're the foundations and clues to what they're going through. They might even be able to use these moments to understand these stories that they've forgotten, the purpose for the company that they work for. So they asked, who was up for a second run, intending to look for the clues left behind? Right, before this is concluded, let's go over some of the other details, such as portal vans. Now, this reveals something about the portal vans, the ones developed by the LCE, the extraction department of Limbus Company, that allows different departments to go from one place to another, making movement between places more convenient. After using Dante and a damned dozen as canaries in cages to make sure it's safe for use. This will likely be used to get them to where Mephistopheles will be, likely for Chapter 9. Well, it would certainly save on travel time to get to that point. If the bus doesn't come back for them at Dagyuan Yuan. Now, the portals being developed, they're being developed by a company that's working on a hostile takeover bid for the W Corp position in District 23, as in the district where the backstreets have the popular pastime of cannibalism. Leatherface and Hannibal Lecter would be at home there. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the blood fiends of District 23 wouldn't stand out that much, as why would they need to hunt for humans when other humans can deliver them straight to their door, like a grocery delivery service that they're apps for in reality? Or when eating out, they can get blood straight from the body and no one would look at them in horror, as even humans there do it. Well, that's how I see it based on how Pierre's Bistro works. Then let's move on to the central control floor, specifically the Tipperefs. The Tipperefs used to be children from the outskirts that was found and taken in by Carmen, Enoch and Lisa. Enoch was more laid back, while Lisa was more aggressive. Things were at least comfortable in the outskirts lab, until Enoch volunteered for the Cogito experiment to create a cure for the disease of the mind, which at that point had yet to bear fruits. It killed him, devastating Lisa, who told Carmen that it should have been her that died, which helped to push Carmen over the edge, and it created the bloodbath abnormality as a consequence. That action, along with resulting in Cogito being produced in large amounts from her brain and nervous system in a tank, while the rest of her body being used as a partial template to make Angela. Lisa died sometime after. She was used to make Tipperef as a brain and a prosthetic body, like the other Severa, with a clone of Enoch being made to assist her. But the clones kept burning out, eventually resulting in a pile of discarded shells. In the end, Enoch was allowed to stay dead, and when the facility became the library and Angela decided to follow her own scripts, she was given a new body, along with the others. Although in Tipperef's case, her body was aged up to the point where she reached puberty. It's also revealing that her abnormalities were, well, at least one of the magical girl sets. What has yet to be fought so far, at least in Limbus Company, is the King of Greed and the Servant of Wrath and the Jester of Nihil. The first one being because she likely wasn't extracted yet, the second one because she wasn't in the facility, and the last one requires all four to be around before he's summoned. Well, the Queen of Hatred and the Knight of Despair, that battle was in the central control floor. Now, as far as I'm aware, she's currently in the outskirts where the library was evicted, unless she was released at some point during the final battle. Well, the second to last battle that there was... Well, the final battle where they actually had a chance of winning. Oh yes, and about the second trumpet, or warning. This is a warning that sounds when enough abnormalities have breached. And this depends on the number of floors unlocked and how many have breached. And also what threat level. So at this point, since central processing and welfare at least have been unlocked, that's 6 floors. So just one what level abnormality won't be enough to result in the second trumpet, as that would only result in 1/6 of the requirement of what's needed for that. So more than just the Knight of Despair clearly breached. To put it into perspective, White Knight, an abnormality that was said to have wiped out a wing that generated power by tapping into hell, an abnormality more dangerous than even the Wulpurgis bird, as that's an automatic third trumpet, as in full-on brown alerts. Apparently the trumpets were based on the 7 trumpets in the Book of Revelation. Finally, let's talk about the magical girls. Both are anime come to life, bringing doom, death and destruction to any that have the misfortune of encountering them, and lack the ability to defend themselves enough to survive the encounter. I've already covered how the Knight of Despair works, but I'll go over her again regardless. The first one to work on this one for the day will be granted her blessing, halving all damage except Pale, which is doubled. It will disappear if that agent is dead, and if the agent loses their mind, that's when the abnormality breaches and attacks everyone with her rapiers. She teleports, and her rapiers can slow her enemies. In all time she's fought, she will impale herself with her rapiers when defeated. Although in the library, and on this occasion, if the rapiers are defeated in a specific order, each of the rapiers will impale her, and that's how she's defeated. The Queen of Hatred is another Watt-level abnormality that will risk breaching if fewer than 3 agents and or clerks did not die before each Grifoff meltdown. Execution bullet-related deaths count. If her containment unit is at full, she will heal the agent that works on her fully. But if she's at the risk of breaching, attachment work will decrease in success rates. But if she breaches, she will turn into a mini kaiju with mouth lasers that can reach pretty far, although she does have her uses in a very specific circumstance. In the second warning, she will appear to assist against the breached threats and the ordeals. She can also teleport to where there are hostile forces. Her star attack will heal allies and damage enemies. But if 20% of employees currently in the facility dies, then she'll change into a mini kaiju. She is obsessed with justice, but this obsession results in her instability, where she believed that she had to take the role of the villain if there's no more evil to fight. In the library, status ailments are the key to defeating her, as the more times that she loses her clashes, the closer she gets to going mini kaiju. Their story is that they once protected a kingdom and its people. Evil started to grow stronger, and they took their own paths to protect others, which corrupted them in different ways. The hatred of the Queen led her to become the villain, and the despair of the knight could also not be contained. It spread to others. Okay, the true story is more likely to be that they were originally humans who were takus, who distorted and then became abnormalities later. Also, seeing as the welfare department has been unlocked based on Roger's sword sharpened by tears EGO identity, it's at least day 26 in that world. Right, what's next? Oh yes, chapter 8.5. Until next time. Hail the rabbits!